All right, you're on, Sachin.
Thank you, Ross. Let me share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see my screen.
I can see it.
Great, great. Hey everyone. As Ross introduced me, myself Sachin Saraf. I'm a senior cloud solution architect working with finance FSI industries, specifically with banking industry, banking, insurance, and capital markets. So I've been indulged with Fabric from the day when it was called with a code name called Trident. So I've been part of Fabric from the day which was called as Trident. And Fabric, why Fabric and what is Fabric? We will go in depth and understand. But before I start talking about Fabric, I just wanted to know in the audience, like how many of you been working on Synapse? How many of you been working on some kind of analytical tools like Databricks, Snowflake, or anything like that? So just wanted to have more conservational understanding where we are going and what we are talking about.
Well, my company is we're a financial company called the OCC, and we do quite a bit with analytics, analyzing the financial data and measuring risk.
Hmm.
So we use we use analytics a lot.
Okay. So, have anyone got a chance to work on Fabric, just to look after the uh, trial piece of Fabric, how it works, how it looks like? Did anyone got a chance to look around?
Nope. I
I
saw
did
some,
not.
demos and it looks interesting. So,
Cool. So Fabric is more of a sassified uh, product compared to the pacified product which we had prior, right? So why Microsoft Fabric and what is Microsoft Fabric, right? Why Microsoft Fabric? So in the Microsoft service portfolio, we have multiple uh, products for every single activity which we do. For example, if we are doing a ETL activity, we have Data Factory. If you want to do a data warehousing activity, we have a Synapse data warehousing. If you are doing a governance and security activities, we have Purview. Streaming activity or a real-time activity, we have Event Hubs. Log analytics kind of stuff, we have Data Explorer. So basically, for every single activities or every single day-to-day activities, which from data analyst to data scientist, whatever they do, they have every single product. We used to sell it as a pacified product. So the biggest problem which we had in the pacified product was the integration. Any part of this tool needs to have an integration. Let's say Ross told me like he works in the financial organization. When he works in a financial organization, they don't want to expose the data to public cloud. And when they don't want to expose the data to the public cloud, they want to keep the data into a private endpoints. When they want to keep inside the private endpoints, their data needs to go from a private link, Azure private link, a lot of other things in the networking aspect. So to do all these things, you need to go through a lot of integration facts and integration process while doing this activity. So based on that, to overcome all these activities, that is the reason from we moved from pacified to sassified. So currently in the 2023 ML AI data landscape, which was done by the Firstmark early stage venture capital, we have more than 2,700 customers who are currently on the AI and ML architecture with the data landscape, and currently they are using in day-to-day data. Like for example, if you see application enterprise, application horizontal, AI hardwares, everything today needs a data with the AI and ML landscape, right? When you look inside, this gives you a better understanding where the entire world is going on, what world is exactly trying to do with AI, with the data and landscape, and with currently the open AI wind is going on across the world, right? So with that, being a fabric makes a lot of difference. So when we see most of our like I've been yesterday I was with a customer in New York. Like I worked with more than 4 or 5 CDOs. The most of the CDOs, what they say is today, hey, Sachin, I am a CDO, but I feel as a chief integration officer because most of my time is spent integrating the products between one piece to another product. So for example, I spin up a storage, connect it to ATL. I spin up a storage, connect it to the Synapse data warehouse. So most of the CDOs are complaining to us in our day-to-day life. So that is where the CDOs needs to be CDOs, not a chief integration officer rather than a CIOs. So that is where we announced on May 23rd, we announced Microsoft Fabric in the data analytics in the era of AI. So what is Fabric? Why Fabric is a game changer in the world of analytics, right? So the biggest thing is Microsoft Fabric is completely analytical platform, lake-centric approach, empower every business users, and the AI powered. Complete analytical solution. Prior to this, we do have a complete analytical solution like Synapse. May I know how many of you guys worked on Synapse until today?
Yeah, we got one.
Amina, yeah. Other than Amina,
No,
see,
looks like Amina's it.
okay.
I
So,
work for a partner that we work with customers that have implemented Synapse, so,
okay,
and Purview and all that, so.
cool. So most of the customers who are doing Synapse activity, they compare themselves directly with the Fabric because Synapse was one of the data warehousing platform which was offered by Microsoft, which is a MPP architecture. So which was one of the way when its a mothership was called APS. It was called as a parallel data warehouse. Then the parallel data warehouse became as a Synapse data warehouse, and then Synapse data warehouse is now Microsoft Fabric. But if you compare Microsoft Fabric with Synapse data warehouse, they are two different products in itself. Okay, so in Synapse data warehouse, as on today, there are DWs where you have a concurrencies. Every DWs has a specific concurrent queries you can execute. And when you spin up a Synapse data warehouse, you have 60 nodes which spin ups in the behind to execute your queries in the parallel mode. Whereas in Fabric, it is completely different. The workload management is changed, the way the query handling is changed. And the biggest part which we have changed is the file format. In data warehouse, Synapse data warehouse, we used to use Parquet as the file format, which was the open source file format, which we had an issue with time travel data. If you have a time travel data in Parquet, you need to copy the data every now and then again and again. To come over that, most of the organizations are trying to move to Delta Parquet and Iceberg. These are the two files types which are which are in great demand from last few months, where Delta Parquet helps in you more onto the time travel, which looks like a log file which carries the data. So that is where the lake-centric approach is coming in. Empower every business users. So when we talk about analytics, as Amina was telling, like Fabric is more indulged into Power BI. Absolutely, because uh, most of most of the users which we are trying to target is more onto the Power BI users, which are more than 35,000 users across the market currently. So where we are targeting and the business users are trying to make life easier, need not to do only data scientists can do this activity or data analyst can do this activity. Using the data which is present in the analytical world, they can deploy and utilize in the M365 as well. AI powered. AI powered is one thing which is going across the globe and taking the power. Where in Fabric we have two type of AI powered co-pilots. When we called up about AI powered co-pilots, one is Power BI AI, Power BI Copilot, and Fabric Copilot. So Power BI Copilot will help you to create reports by the natural language. Let's say you want to create a report of sales FY22 versus FY23. Just go ahead and write a normal LLM like natural language. It creates a report over that. Similarly, like GitHub Copilot we have introduced as part of Microsoft. In the similar fashion, there is a Copilot which has been introduced for Fabric. It's not available in the private preview or the public preview, but it is going to be part of the product where people need to write the SQL query. Until today, like most of us are coming from the SQL background. Today, we are going and like to write 10, 20 lines, 30 lines of codes. SQL code, we used to take 10 minutes or 20 minutes. But with the AI powered Copilot, you can write a SQL queries. You can write machine learning queries. You can write Spark queries. You name it, you can do it through the AI Copilot. So that is until today, you are trying to search in the Google or Bing to find out what kind of query you need to write, but you have a AI powered LLM with a chat. It has been powered with ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, which will help you to create the queries, languages, your queries, understanding about the product. It would be a personal assistant to help you in your day-to-day life. So here, in this way, we are introducing the new solution called Microsoft Fabric. So in Microsoft Fabric, we have 7 pillars. Okay. In 7 pillars, it starts from data factory, data engineering, data science, data warehouse, real-time analytics, Power BI, and data activator. So if anyone has been worked like before on Synapse, most of them have looked after Synapse data engineering, data science, data warehousing. These were the parts which were available in the Synapse already, but we were not specifically calling them as data engineering, data science, or data warehousing. Every single thing was unified. Now we are making it more distinguished so people can access it and understand what we are doing and how we are doing. Until today, when a lot of people were using the data, they like terabytes of data, they would have multiple copies of data, which would have created a lot of data silos across the organization. Let's say finance guy has to create some data warehousing platform. He has to copy the data into ADLS Gen 2 or S3 bucket, wherever he wants. And then it would have created multiple copies of data. So OneLake is a place which is going to address that data silos. There is no more multiple copy of data and multiple copies of data. This would help. That is the place which is helping us to move towards a Delta Lake architecture, which is more scalable and cost efficient. So before I move further, I would like to stop and understand. I like look for any questions in the audience.
I got a question. So if like I said, we got a client that they've got Power BI, they've got Azure, they've got Purview, and are you guys going to be moving them to go to Fabric? And is it a lift and shift, or do you need services? Do you know what that would look like to go?
So currently, if the customer is on Synapse, Power BI, Purview, everything stays intact until they enable that on the Power BI tenant. On the Power BI tenant, they have to enable the Fabric on their machine. And then after enabling the Fabric, if they want to migrate Synapse, we have a migration tool coming soon. It's not yet available, but migration tool is coming in where you can migrate Synapse. Power BI integration can be done through the Fabric, but whatever is currently present for the customer, it is going to be intact. But if the customer wants to lift and shift, it is going to be more of a lift and shift. But Purview integration is more of the integration. What are the artifacts present in Fabric? Because Purview connects with a lot other products in the organization, right?
So can I add so again, we're a professional service organization. You said you've got a way to integrate it or migrate it. Is that going to require professional services, or again, my company, would we be able to build a practice around that, or is that something that's going to be more automatic?
definitely we are coming. See, lot of the things which are present in Synapse, we are not going to support. Some of the query languages are not going to be supported in the Fabric. So most of the things are handled by the tool. Some of the things are not handled by the tool. That is where the professional services will come in play, and they will help the best practices around that migration efforts.
Thanks.
I've got a question, unless you.
Nope, I'm good.
Last year I migrated our on-premise SQL Server data warehouse to the cloud to an Azure SQL database, and I used the Azure Data Factories, the pipelines there. And what grabbed my attention with Fabric is I thought it was a layer on top of all of that, where I could query the Azure SQL database and maybe query some of our vendors' GCP database and the Snowflake database, and I could like connect to all of it at once and query it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll come to that part. There is
Okay.
something really interesting which we are coming in. You are talking about a virtualization of the products, right? Like, for example, you have a Databricks, you have ADF, you have Synapse, you have SQL Server, all this virtualization into the Fabric, and we can query about it. Definitely, I'll cover that up. It's something under the NDAs, and it's already known to few people, and I'll let you know how it works out. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
So, any further questions? If not, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, good. So as I explained, complete analytic platform, everything is unified, SaaSified, secured and ground, lake-centric approach, one lake, one copy, open to every tier, Microsoft 365, everything what I've spoken until now, it's more into the words. So let's go in depth and understand what is complete analytical platform, right? So with being in the market or being a market leader for analytics for so many years, Microsoft come across a few important things, right? Unified security. Security was one of the hard-turned stone for Microsoft because we lacked with the security in Synapse, because the Synapse we tried to achieve a lot of things, but we were not able to do it. Workload management, where we had a concurrency issues depending upon the DW units we used to assign. So based on that, we came across the entire model of Fabric can work on one security, one lake, no more data silos, universal compute capacity, whether it is a Spark cluster, whether it is a data warehouse, whether it is a factory, whether it is Power BI, you will be using one single compute entity. Let's say if you are in as you said, you are using ADF. ADF has its own compute capacity. Synapse has its own computing capacity, right? Everything is different to different. Here, there is no different compute capacity. If you are on a premium capacity of Power BI, which is called P4, if you are on a P4 capacity, you can directly go ahead and enable the Fabric and start using it. On top of that, shared workspaces. So until today in Synapse or any other product or the competes which we had, we cannot do a cross queries between the database. Like for example, if you talk about Snowflake and the other competes, we do have the cross query database. So here we have introduced cross query database between the lakehouse and data warehouse. Sitting at one place, you can access the two databases between the data warehouse and lakehouse, which is a cross query database. And moreover, the storage format is very important because it's a Delta Packet, which helps you on the time travel. Monitoring hub, we have one single place to monitor everything and make a chargeback billing mechanism. Like every organization has different business units like financial, HR, and everyone. So you need to do a chargeback billing mechanism. So chargeback billing mechanism can be done through a capacity metric app, which is introduced in Fabric. Using that, you can do a better understanding about how to charge back to the users in your organization. So going in further, it is more about a persona optimized experience where we are talking about data science, data integration, data warehousing, because every organization has their own different skill set. People with citizen developers, people with Spark development, Spark development skills. So every skills can be utilized at one single persona with a different expertise. So let's go through a demo and understand what exactly it is, how it is. Okay.
Different data professionals can easily get started and collaborate in Microsoft Fabric. We're starting out on the Power BI homepage, which is the ideal environment for a BI analyst that wants to build data sets and reports. However, Fabric offers many persona-based experiences. I can easily navigate from Power BI to something like Synapse Data Science. We see the suggested items change to experiments and models, whilst the recommended materials focus on getting started with ML models. Since I'm a data warehousing professional, I'm going to navigate to the Synapse Data Warehouse experience. And let's get started by creating a new warehouse. All I have to do is give it a name and choose a sensitivity label, and I'm instantly navigated to the warehouse experience. I did not have to set up any clusters, networking, or storage accounts. As a first step, let's bring some data into my warehouse. I can navigate to my pipeline experience in a single click and can choose from many connectors that will bring data in at petabyte scale. I'm going to choose Azure SQL as my source, select all the tables I want to copy, specify column mappings, and that's it. I can now start copying my data. Navigating back to the warehouse, I can see my tables have been automatically created for me. I can explore my data by filtering it directly in the table view or writing my own SQL queries. Fabric experiences cater to both pro developers and low-code users. In the warehouse case, this means that users can leverage a visual query editor for creating their queries. Users can use a graphical user interface, including the ability to do complex joins without ever needing to write any code. In Fabric, we have also combined the data warehouse directly with Power BI, making it really easy for data engineers and business analysts to collaborate over the same data. Here, I've got the built-in modeling view, where I can easily create relationships between all of my different tables. I can also use this experience to add new measures that I need for my BI model. And because these experiences are all integrated, we take care of performance tuning and keeping all the data in sync. Now with one click, I can create a Power BI report. I can see my tables, including my newly created measures. I can drag and drop my fields into the report. I can see that my table has 30 million rows. I can now build out my Power BI report just like I normally would. Navigating back to the workspace, I can see my entire project is ready with my pipeline, warehouse, dataset, and report. I can also see how everything comes together in the built-in lineage view. To conclude, Microsoft Fabric dramatically simplifies the process of building out end-to-end complex analytics projects. I was able to ingest data, build out my data warehouse and BI report, all without needing to configure any infrastructure or leaving the Fabric experience.
Isn't it nice?
In
Because
this
one
demo,
single place you can handle all the data without moving the unified experience. So every single, from real-time analytics to data science, data engineering, one single place to handle all the data. So that is that is what differentiates from what we have from the pacified to a sassified version of what we are today. So lake-centric approach, all your data in the one lake. So as we know, we have a OneDrive where we keep all our documentations like uh, PDF, PPTs, Word documents, and everything. Similarly, we have a one lake for data where your data is completely kept in one single place, which is called data. So where you are delivering all your data and accessing the data from scratch. So one lake for all data, one drive for data, right? The this is the very important topic to understand. When we talk about one lake is nothing but a ADLS Gen 2, which is called Azure Data Lake, right? On the Azure Data Lake Gen 2, we have spinned up we have created a wrapper which is called OneLake. So that creates a SQL endpoint for every single pillars which we have from the data factory to data activator. That is the SQL endpoints which connects. So provisioned automatically with the tenant, and OneLake is per tenant. It's not per subscription. It is more onto a tenant level. All workloads automatically store their data into the OneLake workspace folders. You need not to specify where the data needs to land, and everything is organized into a hierarchical namespace. And moreover, on top of that, we are giving a purview governance where you can see map, labels, lineage view, PII scans, sharing and governance of your entire data so that uh, there is no differentiate between what is going wrong and what is, like, basically understanding the sensitivity of your data, how confidential it is, how general it is. So that is how one lake for all the data. So one copy for all computes. So as we know, right, every single organization has different skill sets. Some might are Spark, some might be on T-SQL, some might be on the KQL, some might be on the analysis service. Let's say I have a database which is customer 360 and they want to do it, the data customers 360 data, they want to use more kind of a Spark architecture. Yeah, they can write a Spark query and start doing the activities using data factory or data engineering. Someone with the citizen developer, they want to write T-SQL queries for the data which is present for finance, they can use a T-SQL queries. Similarly, the log analytics, like log queries as well, they can use a KQLs. Similarly, Power BI with the using an analysis service. All the data which is lying around in the one lake is more of Delta Parquet, and the Delta Parquet is one of the open source format which has been highly used. On top of that, we have built something called Vertipack. Vertipack is an engine which is not a new engine, which is already present from MS SQL Server, MS Excel world, which we called as a Vertipack. On top of Vertipack, we introduced the Vertipack engine in Power BI, and now we have introduced the same into the Fabric as well. Why? Vertipack uses in-memory pages where we can read the data faster enough, need not to read the data from the data pages every time. So that also helps us on understanding. We have introduced a new algorithm inside this, which is called V-ordering algorithm. The V-order algorithm helps us to understand where the data is situated, how the data has been parsed, and how the data can be created the query execution plans. Based on the V-order algorithm, your data will be read into a columnar format because we don't have any indexes over here. We don't have CCI or cluster index or non-cluster index on this. Everything is done ad hoc. Definitely, we have a statistics which are built based on the discovery phase, and that is the reason it becomes more complicated when the V-order algorithm reads the data from the cache in the memory using a Vertipack engine and gets the data back to the users. So this is the one lake is a one single compute where it can suffice for one lake is a source for all the data with the multiple computes across the organizations. And it also use a shared universal security model. Let's say if you have a finance and you want the specific user to see specific table or a specific file, you can place that permission on the one lake level, and it would be replicated across the working capacity model. Finally, the one security, it is
I
a
have a
real.
question.
Yeah,
I
please.
have a question. So, so why it says serverless compute? So do we don't have any dedicated, because I know
Yeah.
it's a SaaS solution, but we don't have any dedicated. So it's not like Synapse is going anywhere, right? I mean, that's what I was going to ask. Because Synapse, like a rough rule of thumb is that if your data is less than 1 TB, don't bring it to Synapse. Synapse is for big data. So
Okay.
what is the benchmark here for using this?
Using for the fabric, it's you are
Yes,
asking.
yeah, Fabric.
See, currently we have a limit of 1 TB, which we have set it onto the fabric. Okay, if you have 1 TB of data, you can start bringing in and start using it. It's not because we are targeting more of a Power BI users, right? So the Power BI user that does not mean that they need to be 1 TB of data. There are small, medium customers who are using Power BI embedded as well. They can use this if they are on a premium capacity. Coming to your point of Synapse, is it Synapse going away on the dedicated pool? See, Synapse has its own customer base. Okay, definitely. What I understand very clearly from the PG group, now the more investments are going to happen on Fabric. Okay, so if you see the Synapse implementation of multi-column store after multi-column store index, we don't see any inventions happening on the Fabric. Why? Sorry, on the Synapse. Why it is not happening? Because it's not only Microsoft, all the competitors are trying to go to the SaaSified version, because even if you think of Databricks, even if you think of Snowflake, it's not that we are trying to copy what our competitors are doing. It's the trend where the entire market is going on. And on top of that, if you're asking me, is it Synapse is going away? It depends what customer needs, because we are not going to remove that product from the market. It's going to be part of market. But if you ask, is there any inventions happening on that, innovations happening on that, compared to 2 years back, what we used to do, it would be less than 25% on that. So it would be more of improvements will be coming on Fabric rather than Synapse.
And the demo you showed was the recorded one. So we don't have the environment, right? As an engineer to test, or we can show the demo.
I can show it to you. I will show you to the entire demo as well. I've built the entire demo. It is available for the if you being an MS employee, you can go to msit.powerbi.com. You can do it. For the people who are on the Power BI, they like people for the audiences, they can go ahead, and if they are using a Power BI with a premium licensing, they can enable the trial licensing and start using it. There is a link. I will share it to everyone so they can start creating their own environments and start using Fabric as well.
Yeah, I saw that. It's admin center. I think it's in the admin center of the Power BI, right? The
No,
page.
no, it is not. It is a cdxtransform.com. That is what you're talking about. But
Okay.
the people who are just new to the version,
Mm-hmm.
like if they are not part of MS employees, they can enable the trial version and start using it.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I move on to the security?
No, we're good.
Okay, that's so let's go for a demo, one copy in action, how one single place you have the data and how we are accessing all the data.
Let's see how different data professionals can collaborate on top of the same copy of data stored in the lakehouse. As a SQL analyst, I can navigate to the SQL endpoint that comes automatically pre-wired to my lakehouse with no setup needed. This opens up the Warehouse UI, which is powered by our serverless SQL engine. This is a completely revamped warehouse experience. There's true separation of compute and storage, and the warehouse is fully optimized to work on top of Delta Parquet with excellent out-of-the-box performance. I can see all the familiar constructs to me, like my schema, stored procedures, views, and queries. As a next step, let's go ahead and write a SQL query to explore our data. To get started, I want to see how many rows of data I'm dealing with in my revenue table. Writing a quick query in the editor shows me I'm working with 3.5 billion rows of data, all stored in the lake. Let's write another query that looks at the sum of revenue and gross revenue across distribution channels and fiscal months. We're even going to query data across different lake houses and warehouses in our workspace, all in the same query. We can see the SQL query runs and returns a result almost immediately, scanning all the 3.5 billion rows of data and giving me my aggregated numbers. But taking a closer look, we can see it looks like I'm facing a data quality issue with my data. Instead of getting a channel name for one of my entries, I am getting what appears to be the GUID instead. I'm going to jump into a notebook and use Spark to fix the bug. You can see the Lakehouse is tightly integrated into the notebook experience, and I can just drag and drop my table onto the notebook and run them from there. Upon running the cell, the notebook uses serverless Spark live pools, meaning things start to run immediately. And in just a couple of seconds, I get a preview of my table. I'm now going to write some Spark code, replacing the GUID with the correct channel name. Once my notebook has finished running, I'm going to immediately rerun the same query in the warehouse. We can now see that the issue has been fixed and all the data appears correctly labeled in the table. Finally, the business analyst can also make use of the data in the Lakehouse. I can simply navigate to the built-in modeling view and start developing my BI data model directly in the same warehouse experience. After all my data has been prepared, I can now move into creating a brand new Power BI report. As I open my report, I can see all the tables on the side, but no data has actually been loaded into Power BI at this point. This is just a pointer to Delta Park.
So the piece which she is talking about, it is called Power BI Direct Lake. So the direct lake method is you are not making any ETL transformation on your data. Your data is just lying in the one lake and it has been loaded to the lake house. And that is a pointer which has been posted into the Power BI. And on top of that, you can create the reports without massaging or curating the data. You can still access the data. You can create the ad hoc reports. That is what called see-through mode, which we are calling it as in the backend. It is called as a see-through mode, but it is called Power BI Direct Lake mode.
Files stored in the lake. This is because Power BI now supports direct lake mode, which means it can natively read Parquet files directly in the lake at blazing fast speeds. Take a look. I'm going to start by dragging in the count of rows, and we can see that we have 3.5 billion rows of data in the revenue table. I'm now going to drag in the sum of revenue. I'm going to break it out by product type, and let's make things nice and big. And then I'll also add fiscal quarter to the legend, and finally change the chart type. And you can see everything is running so smoothly. And as I slice and dice my data, I get all the interactivity I would expect with instant response times. This volume of data would have taken hours to ingest using standard ETL tools. But with direct lake mode, users can now get the amazing performance of import mode without needing to load any data, managing refresh schedules, or worrying about latency. As a final step, we can take this even further and empower every Excel user to benefit from data stored in the Lakehouse. Here I'm in Excel connected to the MS Sales Lakehouse, and I can easily build out a pivot table directly on top of the same data stored in the lake. To conclude, with Fabric, data engineers have a frictionless experience building out their enterprise data lakehouse and can easily democratize this data for all users in the organization. Let's see.
So any questions here, like how one copy of your data can be utilized by multiple products in an organization? Any questions on that?
No, we're good.
Okay. So every organization today, right, thinks of, hey, my data is in S3, my data is in GCP, Google Big Cloud, but my data has been scattered across the organizations. How to access the data without copying the data? Today, if you want to copy the data from GCP, then S3 buckets, you need to create a pipeline, you need to copy the data, put it into the ADLS Gen 2, and start doing activities on top of that. To We are taking that one copy to the next level, which is called shortcuts. So what is shortcuts? Shortcut is nothing but you need not to copy the data, but your data still sit in S3. We can access that data sitting in Fabric and start doing the activity which is needed. And like you can create reports, you can write, you can create uh, you can create a warehouse activities, you can you can run a SQL query, you can do a Parquet activity, anything that is needed. So basically, let's say if your data is in ADLS Gen 2, Amazon or GCP, you can sit in the Fabric and still access the data without anything. This is done basically through a REST API. Using a REST API, you are able to connect through the S3 bucket and you can access the data without any issues. demo where we can access how we can access the shortcuts of S3 without moving out of the Fabric.
No sound.
Yeah, we're not hearing anything.
Uh, can you hear
I
it
can
now?
choose from a variety
Yeah.
of sources, including data already in Fabric. I'm going to select OneLake as the source, and I can browse the OneLake Data Hub and find the MS Sales Lakehouse. I can easily select the table I need, and in just a few seconds, my table appears as a first-class citizen in my lakehouse. No data has been duplicated, and I will always have the most up-to-date data available. But there's more. We know that many enterprises have existing data lakes. Well, with shortcuts, users can leverage one copy across clouds with no data movement. I can light up data not only from AWS Gen 2, but even S3 from AWS. Now for my solution, I would like to merge customer logos alongside revenue and marketing data. And I happen to have stored all of these images in an S3 bucket. All I have to do is select S3 as the source, specify its location, and populate all of my account information. On the next screen, I can give my shortcut a name, add the relative path, and that's it. Within seconds, I can see a shortcut created in the Files section, which is the messy, unstructured data lake portion of the lakehouse. We can navigate through all the different folders and even explore the files, despite the fact that data never physically left S3. Before I get started with my analysis, I realize I'm missing a line of finance company logos, which I have on my desktop. In Fabric, we strive to make OneLake the OneDrive for your data. Let's take a look. Here I've opened up my local Windows File Explorer and can see that alongside my OneDrive folder, I also have a OneLake folder synced. Navigating through it, I can open up my workspace, my lakehouse I was just working in, and I can navigate to the tables and files folders. If I jump into the files section, I can easily navigate through the folder structure, open up the retail folder sitting in Amazon S3 directly in my File Explorer. I can even open up the same image locally that I was looking at in the lakehouse, despite the fact it is still sitting in my Amazon storage account. I'm going to jump back into Files to add my finance company logos. I have the logo images saved on my desktop, so I'm just going to drag the folder inside. And I can automatically see the finance folder show up. My data is now going to get synced back into the lakehouse. Let's navigate back and take a look. I'm going to refresh the lakehouse, and I can see the new finance folder show up. Navigating through it, I can easily explore the images inside, just like I did on my desktop. Now that I have all my data in the lakehouse, I can transform it all in the same uniform way without worrying whether the data was ingested, whether it came from another lakehouse, or if it came from S3.
So the data virtualization has been taken next level where you need not to move the data. You can keep the data where it is, and you can still access the data without any issues. So before I go into the Empower every business user, it is more of a M365, how it is M365 works. I just wanted to understand. I hope you got a clarity what is Fabric and how Fabric. I think there is a one question where I need to still answer how the SQL Server, how other pieces will be accessed from Fabric. Just to give an update, there is something called mounting we are bringing in where the mounting will work, where you can mount SQL Server, Snowflake, Databricks, Synapse, ADF onto the Synapse, onto the Fabric and start accessing the data without leaving the unified experience of Fabric. So you can still run the queries sitting in Fabric. You can run the queries on Snowflake. Sitting in the Fabric, you can run the query on the Azure SQL DB or Azure SQL MI. Currently, it is Azure SQL DB or MI. Going in future, it would be IaaS version and other on-prem versions. That is what we are calling it as mounting. That is going to be available to customers very soon. It's in the roadmap. Any questions? So basically, what is the strategy which we are looking forward is more about Office integrating with Power BI with a Fabric unified across the data analytics. So everyone can access one single play where the Power BI can access the data from the PowerPoint, Teams, Excel, Outlook, everything in the in the similar fashions. Everything can be used from the analytical platform to Power BI as well without leaving the space across the organization.
With Pnext, we deliver.
So there's another piece which was very interesting. We announced um, in our May 23rd meeting was Data Activator. Data Activator, if anyone of you guys worked on functions, logic apps kind of stuff, it is similar to that. What is Data Activator? Data Activator is more about alerting mechanism which has been used. It is like low code, no code kind of stuff. In functions, you need to write the queries from top to bottom. For example, if you go to logic apps, you need to create different steps to create that logic apps. So we are taking it to the next level where you can schedule the triggers, schedule the alerts for real-time data or real-time streaming data or event data, which is available today. So it has been integrated very usefully between M365 and the analytical solution, and this is present on the Data Activator. It is a real-time stream processing solution which helps to alert every single users where there is a requirement, what is happening and what is not. One of a video which have demo which we have is more about how online activity can be done using uh, uh, how a online how a online how a online activity can be done through online delivery system can be done through the activator and alert if the product has been delivered or it is still in delivered state or in transit, everything. So let's go through that demo and understand how it looks like and what it is about.
So in this scenario, we are a logistics company and we have IoT sensors that track our packages, our drivers, trucks, that sort of thing. And we want to be alerted in real time when the packages that we're delivering overheat. Now I've already got some data that's streaming into Data Activator here. In this case, it's coming from Event Hub, but it could just as simply be observations we're making against a Power BI report or a data lake or data warehouse. I can see the events as they come in. Let's focus on the package delivery events. I see an event count at the top, and this is showing us the overall number of observations of events that are coming in. And then the event timeline is showing us in real time as the latest events get updated. Now, underneath that, we'll also see a table where you can see some of the details. So I can see the city name, the number of hours it's been in transit, and crucially the temperature column, which is what we care about. So we need to tell Data Activator, how do we identify individual packages? What does it mean for a package to be overheating? And then crucially, what do we do as a result of that when those packages are too hot? So the first thing I'm going to do is tell Data Activator, how do I identify a package? So we need this package ID column here, and we're going to create an object using that to get started. So now I can see for my object, I can say, let's come back and add these fields as properties. So I'm going to add this hours in transit property and add my temperature property, which we'll then use further. So see those are on the left-hand side here. Let's create a measure on top of this. So the measure lets me do things like aggregating or smoothing out some of those fields. So I'm going to look at the maximum temperature every 5 minutes. Let's give this a name. And you can see what we're looking at here is a sample of 5 of those packages. But the selector at the top lets us swap and look at the others. And you can see there are thousands of packages that we're monitoring here. The system will scale up to support this kind of large-scale logistics system. So let's create a trigger now. And this is what actually checks the conditions, checks the thresholds that we care about. So I care about when the maximum temperature is greater than 80. And what I want it to do is send me an email when that threshold is met. So again, I can see the temperature values here, but underneath I'm actually seeing the number of times this condition would have been met over the last few hours. And in fact, underneath I can see the individual occurrences of when the threshold was breached. And if I select the last few of these, what I can do is test this system and test this action to make sure everything's wired up properly. Over in Outlook, I can see it sent me 3 emails with the object ID, the package ID, and the temperature that was hit when it went over that threshold. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Back here in Data Activator, I've built out this system a little bit more robustly. So I've got more objects and I've added more properties to them. I have things like a driver object on the left-hand side here with a trigger to tell me when somebody's been on their shift for more than 8 hours. And in this case, it's not actually sending me an email. The email's going to the appropriate city manager for that specific driver. So you can see in just a few minutes, I've been able to build out a real-time operational alerting system without writing a single line of code using Data Activator.
So basically, it is more of an alert mechanism which has been used without using functions, without using logic apps. You can create an alert mechanism for every single piece of things which you have created in your day-to-day life. Like, for example, if a data pipeline job fails, you can send an alert. If there is any CPU utilization or a memory utilization on P4 executions, then you can send an alert. If there is all time of real-time events, right? If you're capturing the event streams directly, which are coming from your ATMs, which are directly the transactions which are coming from the banking, all this can be captured and sent. Hey, there is a activity which is more than X million dollars which has been transacted, so that can send the alert. So these kind of alert mechanism can be used through the data activator and sent to the internal organization without any hassle of writing the code which we used to do in functions and the logic apps. So it made our life easier compared to others. So it is a combination of logic apps and the functions.
So in this scenario,
so these are the 2 links which gives you a more understanding about what is data activator and how that the in-depth understanding about this. So the next part is I've already discussed and explained you in the Power BI. In the Power BI world, we used to use a direct query state and the import state. Direct query is a query where you can query the data in the real time, but when you do it, it has a pros and cons. The pros is it is a real time. The con is it use the in-memory data and it is more costlier compared to any other. Import mode is a stale data where you don't get a real-time data and it is a stale data, and you can access the data across the thing, but it is completely stale because it is refreshed based on the schedules. So to come over that, we came across something called direct lake mode. The direct lake mode, there is no middleman, which we used to call as direct data warehouse or a lake house. Without loading the data anywhere, you can still, the Power BI can directly access the OneLake data, which is in Delta Parquet, and start reading the data and show it to the customers or the users about how to create the reports without loading the data or making any ETL facts in everyday activity. So that is where the direct lake mode making a most of the changes, because let's say if you have a 1 TB of data and you don't want there is a ad hoc report which was asked by your boss, and you need not to go ahead and create a ETL and massage the data or curate the data. Your data is in OneLake. Just connect to the OneLake using a SQL endpoint through the Power BI and start accessing the data and create the reports. So it is making more easier for the people to access Direct Lake in the day-to-day. It is one of the popular ask whenever I go to customers today, because I'm working with most of the strategic customers and strategic and Fortune 200 customers. 90% of the top persons, 90% of the people trying to do this because it is cutting down the ETL transaction or ETL events which we are doing on day-to-day. Any questions on this?
No, we're good here.
I have a question. How when this is coming in general availability?
It's already in GA.
It's already in GA with Premium 4, right? Is that Power BI Premium 4?
Yeah, it's in P4, premium capacity.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I believe we had a second question.
Yeah, I'm not understanding. It says it's going to access the data directly, but but it's not going to be slow. How is that being done?
Sorry, it's directly going to access the data. How it is going to be slow?
Well, when it says on the first row, it says slow queries, but real time.
Yeah.
At the bottom, it says, I guess it's real time too.
Yeah, this is real time and it is not slow because here we are not using V-ordering. V-ordering is the algorithm which has been used here with the Vertipack engine. It's just a Vertipack engine. And when the data is here, you have to load it first to the data warehouse or a lakehouse and then query from data warehouse or lakehouse. You cannot query directly from the one ADLS Gen 2. So you have to query it from the data warehouse or lakehouse. And it is faster because it uses the analysis cube in the Power BI and which is memory intensive when you are doing a direct query state. Whereas here we are using a V-order algorithm with a Vertipack system, so which directly access the queries from the Delta Parquet model and then result it back to the Power BI datasets. Here there is something called warm collection and callback collection. It will check whether the query dataset, whether it is V-order enabled. So all these Parquet files here, they are not V-order enabled. Here it is V-order enabled. Anything in Fabric, it is V-order enabled. So what is V-order? V-order is a proprietary technology which has been introduced for Fabric. You can Google it or Bing it, where you can see what is V-order. V-order is a proprietary technology which is built on top of Vertipack, where it can access the data without having any middleman here. So that is the reason it is faster and real time.
Okay, thanks.
Finally, AI powered Copilot accelerated GPT on your data, AI driven data sets. Anything which is the data which we have, everything is in your tenant. It is not going to leave your tenant. It will be in your tenant, but still, as I told, it acts like your personal assistant to help you on your day-to-day activity. So announcing Copilot for Fabric, I don't want to go in much detail and understanding why, because it is definitely I started as a SQL Server DBA, then moved as a cloud solution architect. Today, I'm doing most of my activities using a Copilot in our day-to-day day-to-day activities as well, where it has been improved my productivity while writing queries, while writing the ADF pipelines, while writing a Spark code, anything. I use a Copilot. Definitely human intervention is required, but it has been improved. The way I used to write the code in 30 minutes, now I can achieve the same level of code in 10 minutes. That is the difference we are trying to create with the AI-powered Copilots. So until today, we used to call it as tools. Right now, it is a creative assistant, product-specific, cross-cutting experience, data entry, content generations. Now it is more about a human and natural language, specialized language. Use a natural language to create whatever you want, whether it is a Python, whether it is a Spark, whether it is SQL, you name it, you can create it through the Copilots. So Microsoft Cloud runs on the trust-based execution. Your data is yours. None of your data leaves your tenant. Your data, even with the fine tuning, is not used underlining AI models. Your data is protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance security measures. So all the products which you can see here, from data factory, data engineering, science, data warehousing, real-time analytics, every single piece can use a Copilot. None of them without a Copilot, it doesn't work. So finally, let's see how it looks in future. Because it's already working out. There are some public preview very soon. It will be coming out in the Copilot world. So let's see how it looks like.
Next generation AI in Microsoft Fabric empowers you to unlock the full potential of your data. With Copilot integrated into every data experience, Microsoft Fabric lets you use natural language to bring your data to life. From integrating data to writing code to finding insights and creating reports, new transformative AI experiences work alongside you every step of the way, so you can stay focused on getting value from your data. Copilot helps turn your words into data flows and data pipelines so you can intelligently integrate data from anywhere. When writing code, Copilot automatically suggests code and entire functions in real time. And Copilot can guide you to create machine learning models to unlock insights in your data. Just by chatting with Copilot, you can visually explore your data to create stunning reports, discover insights, and summarize your data into easy-to-understand text narratives for sharing. With Copilot, you can turn insight into action with triggers that monitor your data and notify users. You can even create your own custom natural language experiences that combine Azure OpenAI models and your organization's data and easily publish your creations as plugins. And with your data in Fabric, Copilot provides insights and answers everywhere work gets done. Most importantly, Microsoft Cloud runs on trust, which means your data always remains your data. Bring your data into the era of AI with Microsoft Fabric.
So the Copilot thing, I've already started using in our organization, specifically on some of the customers, the private privy customers we are working together. It's really amazing. It's going to improve the productivity of the people who are on the analytical side. If they want to query any data or write any specific pipelines, models, this is going to be a game changer in the world of AI.
Next.
So in the similar way, how if anyone have worked on ThoughtWorks has their own Copilot. It's already present, and where it creates the reports based on the LLMs. Similarly, we have created something on the Copilot on the Power BI as well. How it looks like. Let me show you.
Let's take a look at how Copilot in Power BI is empowering everyone to quickly find and share insights. For example, say I'm a sales analyst for a hotel and resorts company. Now, with Copilot in Power BI, I can simply describe the report I want to build and get insights in seconds. Maybe we need a new report to help us understand the profile of our customers, to gain insights into what is driving return visits to our properties. I just describe what I need, and Copilot will automatically analyze my data and create a new report based on my needs. Immediately, Copilot created a new Power BI report that is fully interactive, and I can start slicing and dicing my data to explore deeper. Copilot added the charts and slicers I requested, but also conveniently gives me options to adjust the output to get just what I'm looking for. For example, let's switch to ask for a rich text description of my data right inside the report. This narrative summary is fully dynamic, and not only does Copilot highlight interesting insights for my data, but it provides citations from where in the report the data was taken. This summary will update every time the data is refreshed, or people filter the report with new insights based on the data. And just like that, in seconds, I've created a report that would have taken hours or days to do manually. Copilot, built on top of Azure OpenAI, is truly revolutionary for how we empower everyone to find and share insights.
So the roadmap of the Fabric looks like this. Currently, we have all these things are in the public preview: data factory, data engineering, data science, data warehousing, real-time analytics, Copilot for Power BI, and OneLake. Generally available is Power BI. Private preview, we are going with Data Activator, Copilot with Microfabric, and Copilot for Power BI Full. So how you guys can start working on Fabric is these are the product sites where you can start aka.ms/try Fabric. You can go through this link and start using Fabric and understand what is Fabric. And there are very well documentation and step to start introductions where you can see how the Fabric trial works, what it is, how it is, every single pieces. And Fabric documentation, every step-by-step Fabric documentations are available. It's really wonderful. We have very good hands-on labs. You can use the HOLs and start using them right today without any free of cost. So there are a lot of things that are getting involved into Fabric. Once it is GA, you can see a lot of things are going to be changed. So with that, I'm ending the Fabric overview, what it is, how it is. I hope it was informative and helpful.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sachin.
Yeah.
Is there any chance you can send me your slide deck?
Yeah, definitely. I'll share this entire slide deck. You can share it with the your audience.
Okay, great, thank you. You've got my email address, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
All right, very good.
Stop the recording.
And I'm going to stop the recording now.
So as the recording has been stopped, if there are any